right, thanks. Today we meet Marisa, who you might find balancing a handful of markers and pens in one hand and a waffle cone with sea salt caramel ice cream in the other. She has twin web toes, but that didn't stop her from making her way to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, nor did her fear of heights. She swoons to the sound of bagpipes and Scottish accents. Welcome, Marisa.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, so welcome. We're going to start our timer for 7 whopping minutes and see how we do. So what made you tackle Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, good question. So I'm an endurance athlete. I have run a couple of marathons and half marathons. I completed a half Ironman, and then I was like, you know what? I need a new challenge. And fell in love with Africa. And when I found out that Mount Kilimanjaro was one of the tallest peaks in the world, I was like, I got to do that. That's on my list. And so made it happen. Yeah.
Wow.
Wonderful. So tell us about some of the people and friendships that came from the experience.
Yeah, one of the most amazing friendships is the woman that went with me, my friend Rebecca. She's someone that I've known several years, and she had gone and climbed Machu Picchu in Peru. And so when she came back from that experience, I was like, I'm going to capitalize on this enthusiasm that she has for climbing mountains. And I was like, hey, would you want to go to Africa with me and climb Mount Kilimanjaro and live in a tent for 8 days and not take a shower and, all those crazy and fun things. And she somewhat reluctantly agreed to do that. And so our friendship really, truly blossomed and bloomed on that mountain. But the people that we went with were from all over the world. And one of the people that I met was one of our guides, and his name was Godi, which was short for God Listen. And so that was really meaningful and powerful for me because the whole experience was very transformative in a lot of different ways, mentally, physically, emotionally, and also spiritually. And so just having Godi as our guide was pretty amazing and a cool experience. But everyone was so kind, and the people that went with us, especially the men who carried all of our stuff up the mountain, I mean, they were so strong, and they were so kind and gentle, especially the night that we reached the summit, just, helping us to carry the things, because that was one of the toughest parts of the experience, was climbing. And once the air gets so thin up in the top, it's really hard to breathe, and it's really hard to carry all of your luggage. And so those men really stepped in and really saved us in so many ways so that we could reach the summit.
That's amazing. And so you were talking about how difficult it was. Was there a time when you didn't think you could do it?
Oh yeah, it was probably day 4 or 5. I actually got altitude sickness, and so altitude sickness is one of those things that you just cannot prepare for, and there's no rhyme or reason to why people actually get it. But on, I think it was day 4 or 5, we actually went up high and then came back and had lunch and then came back down low to spend the night. And when we came back down, I got very sick, and so I threw up everywhere. And so that was really hard. And so I was like, I don't know. I mean, this is a true physical feat, but it's also a mental feat. And when you're, climbing and hiking for, anywhere from 3 to 8 or 9 hours a day, that can take a real toll on you.
Yeah.
And I mean, you really have to dig deep, for sure.
Wow. What did your friends and family think about the experience and you doing it?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've always been a dreamer. So when I told my parents that I was going to do this, they were kind of like, oh, okay, like, this is a big dream. I was actually dating my now husband. We had just started dating. And he was kind of like, okay, you're crazy, but go for it. I'm going to support you 100%. And of course he did. And I actually told my friend Rebecca at some point on the mountain that I was going to marry him. And we'd only been dating a few months at that time. But it was just, it was just such an amazing experience. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's so transformative.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. You mentioned it was transformative. And can you describe a little bit about what you mean by that? Like, what was How are you changed today from having done it?
Yeah. I have done a lot of hard things in my life, mentally and physically and emotionally. And this was one of the hardest feats I've ever accomplished. Not everyone makes it to the top. And again, there's no guarantee that you're going to make it. And there's no rhyme or reason about who makes it or who doesn't make it. And people have died on that mountain. And so have to be cognizant of that and aware of that. I think it's one of those things where it's just, I can't fully explain it. It's just, I don't know that I have the words, but it's the inner transformation that occurs, the belief in myself that I now have to move forward and go on are just like when I have hard things in my life, I'm like, I can do this. Like I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I can do this. Like this.
Really empowering, right? Like you can go, I climbed the biggest mountain, so how hard could this be? Whatever.
I will say childbirth was a little challenging, but this was, right there with it. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Right. So what are some suggestions for someone who might want to do this as well?
Yeah, I would definitely plan. I went through a company called Mt Kilimanjaro. Highly recommend them. They were amazing. And they helped us and kind of walked us through what to bring and all of that. I would definitely train. This is not something that you would go out and just do. And that was a little bit of a challenge for us. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we don't have a lot of really high mountains here in the East Coast. And so, but we did a lot of back-to-back climbs where we would go and climb for 3 or 4 hours a day and then get up the next day and then climb again. So definitely train, and then definitely make sure that you are willing to dig deep and really get uncomfortable in a lot of different ways.
So is this a once in a lifetime thing, or would you do this or something like this again?
That's a good question. I think this is for me, this is probably a once in a lifetime thing. Now that my parents know, because I didn't tell them before, now that they know, and my friends know, my family knows that people die on that mountain, I think there's a little bit more of, caution. But yeah, definitely, definitely a once in a lifetime thing, probably.
Once in a lifetime thing. Well, thank you, Marisa. That was a beautiful story. We got it done in 7 minutes. Lots of great information.
I know, that was wonderful.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing your story. Click below to subscribe and hear more stories. We're going to travel with us through real stories with real people. Thank you.
Thank you.